And I'm back with more Tales of Arise. I'm here on Rena, and I'm just going to bum rush my way down. None of the fights are worth a damn anymore because of the experience caps that they put on as you level up. As you fight, you get these teleporters. If I wanted to just go right to the end, I go right there. But this will give me a chance to show off Rena, if nothing else, so that people don't feel like they got shortchanged or anything like that. So, there are a couple things missing, like bosses and stuff, but trust me, it saved me some trouble. And if nothing else, Rena does look kind of nice. But a lot of these are like boss fights from earlier in the game, or big piles of Zoogles and stuff, and I'm 15 to 20 levels ahead of these guys. I don't really need to fight them, so I'm not gonna, if I can avoid it. This would have been an elevator to fight, 5 or 10 battles, and then get a lot of experience, so there's that. There was a spot at the bottom where there's like 6 fights all at once, and then you deal with that, and then you unlock the final fight. So, this will at least give me a chance while I'm doing all this to kind of talk things that... I mean, I've talked at length about what I felt about the plot twist near the end and how things kind of slowed the fuck down because of the fucking skits. Remember, those are optional. They're optional, so a lot of that stuff was just maintained and it wasn't like that big a deal. And I did that because that was stuff. I didn't have to. So a lot of the stuff in cutscenes are major cutscenes or anime cutscenes. So it's kind of fair game to criticize that, but at the same time, it's optional stuff. It's flavor text, so it's stuff to reiterate what you already know, or just adding extra context, or in some cases here's just a dumbass fucking hot spring. I was looking for hot spring I was gonna say beach or swimming episode. No, it's a hot spring episode because reasons. So they do that. But again, that's not mandatory. None of it is mandatory.
I won't forgive you. In here. More for the stockpile. Explosion.
Armor won't save you.
Sleep now.
You picked the wrong fight.
Archer here. Who's confiscated? Where are you going?
Make it rain.
Redwell. Astral energy.
But as far as like the game as a whole goes, because I have already reviewed this game.
Those astral arts.
Yeah, look at that, 1,000. I was getting about 10,000 to 15,000 in the fight with those birds. So no, it's not going to do me any good to fight these guys. I've done a review of this on my podcast earlier this year, so I'm kind of restating things I've already said, but I do like the character. I mean, I do like this game a lot. Don't get me wrong. I think visuals-wise, I mean, this is the sort of stuff they never did. Or if they did in Zestiria, I didn't see it because I saw Berseria, okay? And Berseria was a lot less impressive. It was very lackluster. There's no real meat on the bones there. A lot of the dungeons, and to be fair, the dungeons in this game aren't really any good either. They're dungeons. You fight things, you do things, you go do more, it's not really that intense. But I think the vistas, the actual graphics wise, the look and aesthetics of this, the looks of the characters, they look more impressive. The skits, though they're stilted, they have actual in-character models and outfit changes, so there's that. I think the battles do go a lot faster I wasn't really a big fan of Berseria's, you know, equipment-based mechanics, so bear that in mind. Because the combos were fun, and I think it did an okay job of saying, hey, you're weak to this thing, so do this. This is a lot more hectic and forward, and I think I'm going... No, shit. There's hectic moments. I really wish the characters didn't suck so bad at tanking damage, because Alphen cannot heal for shit. Kisara, just because she has so much more HP, can tank most of it, because that's her fucking job. But again, when you take damage, even on the easy mode that I'm playing on, it's really frustrating to have to heal all the time. Shion is basically just a mandatory healer with some fire spells and guns and bombs. But I'm almost never using the fire and the guns and the bombs, because I'm always healing because my AI is so fucking dumb. That's why I use Shion in the first place. So it's not the most competent AI I've ever seen. Then again, AI in action-based combat sucks anyway, because they just run in and die. This is a dodge-heavy game, so it's really frustrating to have, yeah, let's heal every 5 seconds once I get hit. The bosses are fucking damage sponges unless you do damage to them. I focused on the boost command because the boost stuff is really all that really separates this game from anything else, and they really want you to use those boost strikes. Did you use boost strikes? Did you use them yet? Did you use them? Did you use the skills and the arts that we gave you? No, but they build boosts. Make sure you use the boost things. So yeah, the boost things make a big difference. But despite that, I think that the characters and the care that most of the game, I will say the ending, this astral spirit thing, is not the most unique of villains, and it's basically Necron if Necron showed up 2 to 3 hours before the end of the game. So yeah, I'm not that enthusiastic about it. Because it's sci-fi bullshit for the sake of sci-fi bullshit. And even if it makes sense on a conceptual level, I think much like Final Fantasy IX, it's just kind of lost in translation a little bit. When you compound that with some of the darker shit, and I'm specifically talking, I mean, Zephyr was one thing, but I think the thing that really struck me, and I will remember, is Magal's death. And Kisara and Dohalim's reactions to it. That is really where the game's strength lies, is that there wasn't a lot of meat on the bones, because they were hiding all this shit intentionally, and they weren't forcing it down your throat because you were constantly doing things. The dungeons didn't last that long, the bosses didn't last that long, all the shit didn't last long. As you'll notice, the thorns are finally showing up here, and they're gonna get darker and darker as it goes. That's a nice effect. But again, I think Magal dying and Kisara's the performance that I think was Caitlin Galt was the name of the voice actress. Holy shit, dude! I could feel and have that resonate with me, and I'm sure like the Zephyr thing sucks, but I wasn't like I kind of figured both of them were gonna go away, right? But there's a difference between like I think there's a difference when you know there's a boss fight like 2 or 3 areas later versus, oh shit, the boss fight's now. Get your ass in gear. Stop crying. Go. There's a lot of emotion in that. There was emotion. See how much damage I take just from that shit? 15 levels ahead, and I'm still fucking... Ugh! There's still so much fucking damage. It's stupid. I mean, no, I'm not in danger or anything, but it's fucking dumb. But, anyway... But again, I think it's the character moments. I think I would have preferred something like, here's a plot twist. Naori became disillusioned by trying to find a way to stop her thorns, that even though she could have she passed them along, she herself is now morally corrupt and wants to destroy humanity. Rather than a force of nature trying to take astral energy, she just does it for the hell of it. I mean, would that have made sense? I don't know, but I think it would have made more I think it's always better to have a physical villain rather than a force of nature villain. Or if you're going to have a force of nature villain, mix it with a characterization so that it isn't just, oh, this thing's stealing our energy and making the planet fucked. Blah. It worked for Sin, I think. It worked for Sin because we saw the damage. The most we saw in this game was after effects and the hollowing. It wasn't really, oh no, what are we gonna do? You know, the astral spirit is whatever. It's just a thing that's causing Shion grief, and it's not Volron attacking us all the time and stealing our stuff, or Almadria, you know, being a dick to us, to our face, and just ruining our day for the hell of it. Those are cool scenes. I mean, Law's reactions to it notwithstanding, because I still think he's fucking stupid, I get the context of why he did it, and I think people, you know, people try to justify it, and I get that, but I still think that scene as well is just But again, you still have things like Shion and Alphen slowly, you know, butting heads, but getting together. Alphen, at least for the most part, being a goody two-shoes, but not letting people just turn him into a fucking doormat. Shion herself being tsundere for the fuck of it, but, you know, not like complete tsundere without a reason. And now that we know the reason, she's slowly starting to become friendly with everybody. And it's slowly making more and more and more sense. Rinwell's a good character, goes through a lot of stuff. Law is a character. I'm fine with him. Dohalim and Kisara, they don't change much, but still, that scene I think is important in establishing who they are and why they're doing what they do, but they don't change much. I think one of the drawbacks is the left behind syndrome is like when you're done, like there's not a whole lot left that you're done. Like once your character arc is done, you're just kind of there doing the thing. They saved Rinwell's for the 4th area, which is fair. And then they saved a lot of Shion and Alphen stuff towards the end, like they should have. But again, context being key, there's things they could have or should have done or could have said this. Again, I think you could have enhanced Volron a little bit more. Because, I mean, his effects are interesting-ish, but I don't know if they fully fleshed out. Like, he's the Sovereign, but what's he doing this for? Shits and giggles. You know, he's just doing it for shits and giggles. Naori fucking with the world would have been a nice little twist. But again, I think Volron still being a main villain would have superseded the astral spirit of Blaise, you know. But that's personal preference. I think everybody has their own opinions, and, you know, opinions are what they are. As far as side questing, what about content-wise? Well, this game's with 70 hours. I'm going to say it's around 60. Give or take, because I had so many breaks for episodes. You know, 50, 60 hours is a substantial game. That's a long time. That's a good month or a month and a half to play a game or whatever, you know, depending on what your time frame is for doing a game these days. I do this for content now, mostly rather than playing offline anymore. Yeah, that worked. Fun. But, you know, it took me a month to beat this the first time, and that was off camera. Now that I know what I'm doing, it took about the same amount of time, just stretched out to 3 months of episodes, you know. But 60, 70 hours for me taking time to explain things and going over content, because I wasn't really, outside of, I'd say, the Dohalim fight for sure, and the Almadria fight, I didn't really suffer a lot of damage. Get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. So, Tales still has some things it can work on. I don't think it's perfect. And no game's perfect, let's bear that in mind. I'm not being... I just think, considering where they were with Berseria, and for its faults, still had a story that stuck the landing, I don't think this stuck the landing. And it ended up being a frustration rather than a celebration of what the game did well. Because as I've stated, the beginning and the endings of games have to be the best part. And for all the faults of Persona 5 and how long it takes to get going, they still have all the Shiho stuff and the Kamoshida stuff. That's a hook. That's a fucking hook. You know, it takes you 6 or 7 hours to get fucking going, but they give you a reason to want to cheer or boo certain people. This game does that, but I don't think they give you enough reasons. You have to kill the great spirit of Rena to save Shield. That's fine, I guess. But I still would have preferred, hey, Volron usurped the thing, or Naori usurped the thing, and now is on a personal vendetta or mission against a certain person. Or is deluded. Say in Naori's case, it's like she loves people, but then she just wants to kill them because the world said no. You know, disillusionment can be a powerful motivator. Now, that seems cliche in some aspects, but that would have been an interesting idea, rather than, hey, we're some dudes in space, we're trying to save this thing that didn't happen, and whatever, from this evil spirit or whatever, that may or may not be sentient, that doesn't actually speak, but we've seen it with thorns, that have thorns that cause Shion to have pain or whatever. You know, it's just... yeah. There's not a lot. You can see why after the Five Lords thing, to basically just say, nah, that was all bullshit. Here's what was really going on. Like, were they leading to it? Maybe a little, but I don't know. So again, I hope you can see why I love most of this game. And a lot of people said the same thing. Some people didn't like the Five Lords mechanic. So these are the 6 zones. Some of them just have other enemies from the other parts. One of them was a boss, and you kill them all and you get some better equipment out of it. So I did all 6. But, you know, I think it's more of the frustration involved than really the enjoyment factor, because this game did have such a strong, like, 80%, and then it decided to slow itself down to an absolute fault. And to an absolute halt, to its own fault, when it didn't have to. And slowing down mostly due to skits that were optional, of course. So, you know, weigh that. But I also think that when you have such an improvement in the visual spectacle, such a great, you know, set of circumstances, not a perfect set, but we have the Miguel situation, we have the Zephyr situation, we have all the lords that are trying to fuck us over, we have the Rena-Dana divide in classism. That's a cool thing. And then to find out it's just some scientific mumbo-jumbo about planetary disruption and some evil ascension dark shit. It's just kind of... It just feels lackluster. Like crushing my finger under my desk like a moron. Yeah. I put my hand on my chair and then it accidentally rammed into the bottom of the desk and jammed it. Ow. Fuck. So, at the end, I don't want people to assume that I hate this game. And I don't know what everybody's opinion on this game is, but I hope people understand that this is my second favorite Tales game. Aside from Graces and Berseria, I've had trouble for many different reasons. Either the gameplay is too stiff, the characters and the main characters are just kind of there, not really all that impressive with the visuals, you know, because this game, for the longest time, this franchise was alright, but, you know, it just was lacking in visual polish. I'm not saying, no, Final Fantasy 1 through 6 didn't fail or didn't succeed because their visuals weren't Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 8. I'm saying the visuals were always like, say, an East game before this. This is a technical jump of massive proportions for a Tales game, which could be true or could not be true. I think the one I remember Graces was they had like Zillia, Zillia 2, Zisteria, and then Berseria. Berseria was done on a budget, so that could be misconstrued. I'd have to play or watch footage of Zisteria to absolutely know for sure just how a jump this is. But this is the first one that they did on a PS4 for the PS4 platform going into the PS5. So the other ones were PS3 games. So I can see why they had a jump in that regard. But the storytelling just still holds this series back a little bit. There's just something about it there they can't get out of its own way, where they had like 2 or 3 competing ideas, where one was really fucking good and really fucking slick and focused and just concise. And then this stuff happened and just really kind of suckered you in and then gave you a, not a terrible ending, but a kind of, you know. So that's why this is my second favorite. Tales games kind of do this sometimes, and it does kind of suck, because I think for the limitations that Berseria had, they had characters with a motivation to want to kill every motherfucker on the planet and not give a shit about the consequences. That helped. That you can only kind of do that sort of lightning in a bottle once, right? You can only do that sort of lightning in a bottle at a time. This is a slightly softer edged game. The characters still go through a lot of dangerous shit, but it's not the moody type of stuff that Berseria reveled in. So again, it doesn't cut the same, like, deep, ingrained, like, oh fuck, sort that it goes through. But it still had its moments. I still think the Magal, Kisara, Dohalim stuff, the Zephyr stuff, the Almadria stuff, Law's reaction aside, are pretty fucking good. Shion and Alphen actually have good romantic chemistry, despite one being a tsundere of epic proportions and the other guy kind of not being, but also not a doormat. If Alphen was a doormat, I don't think this game would work at all. But because he's able to stand on his own feet half the time and call people out on their stupid bullshit while still trying to be a good guy, it's a refreshing change. Because what's the alternative? We get fucking dorks and doormats. We get the... This is going to be an anime reference. We get the senpai from Don't Tease Me Nagatoro. I don't want those fucking characters as main characters. I don't want pussy-ass motherfuckers all the time. I want somebody who actually knows what the fuck they're doing and actually seems competent. So at least in that sense, I mean, he's no Velvet Crow, because who the fuck else is going to be Velvet Crow? But Alphen was fine. Shion was fine. These 6 characters were fine, and I think this is still a substantial experience. But it's not over yet. Because I've done all this talking, and all this leveling, and all this fighting, and all this shit to get to this point. So the next episode is probably going to be the finale. I probably do not want to cut the next episode into 2 if I don't have to. Unless there's a denouement or something, but I don't remember if there is. There shouldn't be. But the next time you see these videos, that should be the finale. I hope I'm leveled up enough. I mean, I beat this game at 60. I see no reason not to beat this game at 70, but there's only one way to find out. But thank you for listening to a sort of review slash grind episode sort of thing. And I will see you guys for the finale next time.